key departments and communities is laid out the road for China's development for the next 5 years. And these cover critical areas from the macroeconomy to national policy, agriculture, technology, trade, and public health. The industry communique puts that China's economy remains solid with great resilience and potential. The strength of its socialist system, of its massive domestic market, complete industrial chain, as well as abundant talent resources continue to stand out.
The Chinese Foreign Ministry will hold a forum on improving global governance to build a community with a shared future for humanity. On Monday, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi will attend and address the opening ceremony of the Lanting Forum. Representatives, experts, and scholars from China and abroad will hold discussions at that forum. Beijing has urged Brussels to stop including Chinese firms in its sanctions against Russia. The Commerce Ministry expressed strong opposition after the EU's 19th sanctions package targeted major Chinese oil refiners and traders for the first time. The EU also banned Russian LNG imports and blacklisted more than 100 oil tankers, a day after the U.S. imposed sanctions on Russia's two largest oil producers. China said the move undermines cooperation, while Russia dismissed the new sanctions as counterproductive. Russian President Vladimir Putin says the new U.S. sanctions on oil companies will not significantly impact Russia's economic health. Putin said the sanctions are an attempt to put pressure on Russia, commenting on U.S. President Donald Trump's remarks on Wednesday that he'd canceled his planned meeting with Putin. The Russian leader said Moscow has always supported dialogue. He said it would be a mistake to approach the Russia-U.S. summit without preparation. The U.S. administration's announced a series of steps to open up Alaskan wilderness to energy and infrastructure development. The plans include reopening the coastal plain of the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge for oil and gas leasing. The step will reverse moves by the previous administration to restrict drilling there. During his first term, U.S. President signed the 2017 tax bill that required 2 oil and gas lease sales in the coastal plain. Joe Biden's administration later halted and ultimately revoked those leases. Nearly half of German companies expect weak business prospects in the coming months. Trade union IG Metall's poll of more than 2,600 firms found that 47% have a negative outlook as high energy costs and U.S. tariffs continue to squeeze competitiveness. About 1 in 5 companies are considering moving jobs to the United States, with automakers and steel producers reporting the weakest job security. And that's the news. I'm Shane Bigham.
An in-depth look at the engaging debate on U.S., China, and global issues. This is The Heat.
A new report sponsored by the US-based Commercial Space Federation finds that China could surpass the United States as a leader in outer space over the next 5 to 10 years. Meanwhile, Chinese scientists have discovered that the mantle on the far side of the moon is cooler than the near side. The discovery comes after analyzing soil samples collected by China's Chang'e 6 lunar probe. Zheng Yibing has more in this report.
The far-side lunar samples are opening up new pathways to deepen our understanding of the moon. Chinese scientists have announced new findings indicating the lunar mantle on the moon's far side is colder than that on the near side. This is based on investigation into the petrology and geochemistry of the returned lunar basalt fragments. Chang'e 6 basalt on the far side, dated at 2.8 billion years ago, showed a mantle potential temperature roughly 100 degrees Celsius lower than that of near-side basalts returned by the Apollo and Chang'e 5 missions. This represents the first of its kind study.
I think the most important in the scientific discovery is that it can offer a new angle about the hemispherical differences, for example, in mantle temperature on the moon. It will inspire people to have further and deeper research.
These new findings were achieved through multiple approaches by scientists from this research institute, as well as Peking University and Shandong University. The results have been published in Nature Geoscience.
Starting from the Chang'e 6 lunar samples, all the previous speculations on the far side have physical evidence to verify them, and the new theories also need them for support. This is unique.
In 2022, the discovery of the new mineral on the moon was announced by the research institute based on the analysis of the near-side lunar samples from the Chang'e 5 mission. Now the new findings are being unveiled based on the far-side lunar samples from the Chang'e 6 mission. And through the joint efforts of scientists, we're expecting to gain more knowledge about the lunar formation and evolution and beyond. 郑一斌 CGTN, Beijing.
Later, we'll talk with the retired Canadian astronaut Chris Hadfield, but first let's get to our panel. Yang Yu Guang chairs the Space Transportation Committee at the International Astronautical Federation. Amitabh Ghosh is a U.S. space scientist working on NASA's Mars missions. And Fan Zheng is an associate professor of astronomy at Beijing Normal University. Thanks to all of you for being with us. Fan Zheng, let me start with you, and let's begin with those soil samples that were recovered from the far side of the moon. What did they tell us, and what does it mean that they are cooler on, or the surface is cooler on the far side of the moon rather than the near side?
Right, so the two sides of the moon actually look quite different. On the near side of the space facing us, we can see darker areas. They're basically lunar moraines. They're formed from late times of lava flows, but you don't see those on the backside of the moon, which means the two surfaces solidified at different ages, at different times. And this vast difference informs us on how the moon was formed. So the leading theory is that a Mars-sized protoplanet collected with Earth, and then the splash, the debris from the moon. And through this process, the side of the moon facing Earth, the really hot Earth back then, would have a different temperature from the backside. And this particular sample taken from the moon and being analyzed sort of verifies that there is indeed this temperature difference when the solid or when the rock will actually form. So it's an important step in observationally actually verifying important moon formation theories.
And Fan Zheng, what do they tell us? What do these samples tell us about the potential for humans living on the moon?
Right. Some of the lunar rocks, it's difficult to extract, but they contain a lot of hydrogen in them, and there's also oxygen. So if you can do proper chemistry, you can have substantial facility on the moon, then there's a possibility you can manufacture water out of the lunar material without even going into the craters to extract proper ice. This kind of analysis tells you lots of the kind of in situ resource utilization you can possibly do, and depending on your technological level and how much equipment you want to carry to the moon, that gives you different